And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is another patron roster review. This is Nyyk. What's happening, Nyyk? And he is with the Sons of Anakin. Now, they're an amazing team. They're on the cusp of doing heroic AAT. What that means is they need like 2, maybe 3 more players to join them. So Nyyk has asked that I give their team, Sons of Anakin, a shout out, and they are recruiting a couple more people, and they will be there. So they just want to make sure they have a full roster so they can make it through the heroic, and they're so close. So you can hit Nyyk up either with his top left player ID, or you can hit him up on Discord at Nyyk, Nyyk, hashtag 4906. Like I said, they're almost there. So what's happening, Sons of Anakin? You're going to get there. Now, I went through Nyyck's stuff for his roster review, and he could do a roster review on me. I think he's got crazy spreadsheets. He's the most organized individual I've ever seen in my life. He knows down to the shard who he's farming for, what piece of gear, how many pieces of gear are left for every single character on a spreadsheet. He knows how many hundreds of Carbonti salvage he needs. It's crazy. It's pretty awesome. Now, he's got his for ships, Boba Fett and Poe Dameron are the ships that he's going for. And for characters, he's doing First Order TIE Pilot, Han Solo, OG Han for, I'm guessing his scoundrels, Poggle, don't ask, B2, because he knows he's got my roster review, and I'm going to be suggesting that. Palpatine, of course, he's gearing up, and he's going for, hopefully soon, General Kenobi. Now, he is a bounty hunter fiend, and if you look, he's in the top 20 with a bounty hunter team. And that's amazing, but this is an amazing bounty hunter team, so shout out to anybody who doesn't play by the meta. What's up, Nyyk? All right. He also wants to know if he can make his bounty hunters any more viable. What about ship pilots? His ship priority as far as which ones to farm. Should he Zeta Yoda? Pause. No. There's your answer. And then what direction in the game should he be moving for? Now, the direction is one of the easiest things because you're almost at the heroic AAT, so you need to make sure you have 4 heroic AAT tank teams that are going to be viable and that they're going to pull their weight for when you guys go for it, okay? Now, the first thing you asked for was your bounty hunters. Are they viable? Can you make them more viable? And yes, they're viable, like you're proving you're in the top 20, but how do you make this team more viable? And the issue with them is durability. There's no tank on this team. The second is thermal detonators do not stick as much as they should. They should make thermal detonators unresistible. I think that would make the game way cool if thermal detonators were a guaranteed thing, but they're not. And so because of that, and because there's so much thermal detonation heavy on this team, that's kind of an issue with Zam and with Greedo. So I would say probably, you also had Cad Bane at some point in here, I would say probably get a tank in here, someone to protect this team. I mean, Sunfac would work great on this team with his counter capability, and you could have replaced Cad Bane with him. Instead, it looks like you put in IG-88. IG-88's great, but again, no tank equals no real defensibility. You're dropping too far because of that. Offensively, it's great. Defensively, you got to have a tank. I mean, even Stormtrooper Han or Chewie, they're both scoundrels, so they would sort of have synergy with Boba Fett, at least anyway. And so you could put in one of those tanks, and of the 2, Stormtrooper Han would probably speed the team up so much faster and be so much better of a tank. Just not as durable as Chewie, but a much better overall tank. But Sunfac would also work in here as well. But long story short, you need a tank. Now, you stated that ships are a #1 priority, so I'm going to give you a couple characters that I know you need to farm. Some of these are already on your radar. Some of them might not be. #1 is Sunfac. You want to make sure that you are finishing him up. You finish gearing him up. I know you've got him 7 stars and you've got some good mods on him, but make sure you finish gearing him all the way up. #2, Poe Dameron. His ship is amazing, and I know you're shooting for that ship, but you're farming it, and Poe Dameron works great in a resistance team, but his ship's awesome. So make sure that you gear him up. He's only gear 8, and you want to get him up as high as you can. His abilities as well, if you're going to use him outside of ships, you will want to go ahead and Omega all of those abilities. I think I'm going to surprise you a little bit with #3 and 5s. Fives has one of the best ships in the game. It's one of the most durable ships in the game. It can dispel on his basic. It can apply target lock. It puts offense down, defense down, and is really hard to kill. It's one of the few ships you haven't really done anything with, and I would highly recommend you get him and his ship. So you have him at gear 6. You're going to have to get him way higher than gear 6, get his attacks and abilities up, and he is an easy farm. So you should be able to get him up really fast. All right, number 4 is Imperial TIE Fighter. The TIE Fighter, because you said you want to be, ships are your #1 priority, I am going to tell you this is the second fastest ship in the game. Pose is first, but this ship can go first almost always once you get his pilot up, and you can put target lock on his basic right off the bat, which will help your bigs taunt instantly. And this is one of the best Empire characters in the game and one of the faster characters for the Empire team as well. So to see him at like gear 2 or gear 3 or whatever is just a shame. Make sure that you put him in your favorites and start to gear him up so he can really help you in your ships. And lastly, number 5 for ship pilots for you, I would highly recommend First Order TIE Pilot. I know you've got him semi done up. I think he's at gear 8. You threw some decent mods on him, but you don't really have much more for him. Remember, every level you go up in your attacks and abilities is going to provide more power towards the ship that he, the First Order TIE Pilot, brings in. So you want to continue to farm him. I know he's a terrible farm in the game with only 2 nodes to acquire him on, but you need to farm him up, get him to 7 stars, get his attacks and abilities to 7 at a minimum. His ship is excellent when you have target lock down and you have multiple ships that'll do that. Basically every turn gets to hit for 50 to 70 K. He's the hardest hitting ship, consistently hardest hitting ship in the game. And again, if you're serious about ships, you need to do this. Now, I talked about Sunfac, Poe, Fives, Imperial TIE Fighter, and the First Order TIE Pilot. You also need to make sure that you're farming their subsequent ships as well, because obviously without the pilot the ship's no good, and without the ship the pilot's no good. So make sure you're working both side by side, their ships and farming their ships, as well as leveling up these characters. Now, I know you asked that you wanted to know if you should do Grandmaster Yoda's Zeta on his special battle meditation, because you were looking at a possibility of having a Zeta and doing it to someone. And I am going to say, because of who you have and who you run, no. I would actually tell you, you're the first person I've ever not made a suggestion on Zeta. Hold on to your Zeta. I have a feeling you're going to want 1 or 2 Zetas in the future. So it's because you're not running an Uber Jedi team, this is an unnecessary Zeta. I really would not go that route. Now, remember when we just talked about pilots, I just wanted to switch over to ships so you could see your ships. You're doing well in ships, but the Umbaran ship is at 3 stars. That's an easy farm. And remember, Fives has one of the best ships in the game. It is one of the fastest ships in the game as well. So you definitely want to get that geared up, and you can see, or leveled up. You can see you've got him at 3 stars. Also, the Imperial TIE Fighter is not that difficult to star up. You have him at only 2 stars. So start to gear the character and the ship. That ship definitely needs some major love. The First Order TIE Fighter looks like you're doing very well. You've got the ship leveled up. It's just the pilot that you're going to need to level up. And your Sunfac ship, you've got leveled up as well, so that is good. And then also Poe Dameron, you've got him at 6 stars, level 85. So you've definitely invested in him, and that is wonderful as well. Now, I've already mentioned the TIE Fighter pilot down here that I suggested that you work on. This is one of 4 characters that I'm going to tell you about arena viability. If you want to make another team other than bounty hunters, you're going to need to have some extra tunes or characters that are worthy to go into other teams. And so you got to start sprouting out and picking other characters that are going to keep you viable. And a couple Empire characters come to mind. The first is the TIE Fighter pilot. You definitely want TIE Fighter pilot for arena. Right above him is Shore Trooper, and I would say that you're crazy to have a 3-star Shore Trooper and not have him integrated into an alternate team for arena. This is one of those characters you definitely want to level up. Not many people have him. He's still one of those characters that's relatively hard to get because he has one node, and unless you're buying him through, you know, crystals, you're basically, he's almost impossible to farm, because even if you have his node 3-starred, you get maybe 1 shard a day on average. It will take a month to just get him up to the next star level. So, and then it takes a whole year to get him to 7 stars from the start to finish. So since you have him and since he's viable at 3 stars, I would definitely gear him up. Number 3 is Rex. I know like 60 to 80% of people are now using Rex as a leader, and that is meta, and you're like the anti-meta with your bounty hunters, and so I know this rubs you the wrong way for me to even suggest him, but he's going to be useful in Rancor. He's going to be useful in the heroic raids for the AAT. You're going to be able to use him in Arena as an alternate team leader. You're going to be able to use him in light side battles in the Galactic War, and so he's just one of those characters you have to bite the bullet. And even if you're not doing it for meta, do it because he's one of the most viable characters in every aspect of the game out there. So get your Rex geared up, man. Level him up, throw him in your favorites. This is your 3rd character I would highly recommend working on for arena viability. And number 4 for arena viability, to be able to make a universalized team that you can go against anyone. There are certain characters like General Kenobi you need for those alternate arena teams, and Darth Nihilus is no different. He is a must-have, and you have him just like Shore Trooper. You have him at 3 stars. He is easily just as viable at 3 stars as he is at 7. He will not do quite as much damage and will not have quite as much health, but it does not matter. It does not take away from his usability. He's one of those characters that if you have, you should have maxed. No questions asked. He's going to work in Rancor. He's going to work in AAT. He works in Phase 2. He works in Phase 3. You're going to love him. And in Arena, he's the equalizer. He's the character you put in to make sure that you can defeat your opponent when they have an overpowered team. So you definitely have him sitting here at 1 star or 3 stars, level 1, Gear 1, and that's a dang shame. So if you want some future characters for arena viability, number 4 is going to definitely be Darth Nihilus. All right, Nyyk, you're doing awesome. You're only about 6 months in. I know you're a dolphin and spend a little bit of money. So if you're going to spend any money at all, I would highly recommend the money go to crystals, which will go immediately to gear in the store to get these characters like Darth Nihilus, Rex, Shore Trooper from like gear 9 to 10 or 10 to 11 when you have the time, if you're going to spend any money. If you're not going to spend money, then just gear them up the old-fashioned way on the side in your favorites as you have time. Use your raid rewards to gear them up, the gear rewards to gear them up. I hope that you have some more ideas as far as ships and pilots to keep you viable now and in the future, and also the farming of Darth Nihilus, Rex, Shore Trooper, and TIE Fighter pilot should help you in arena overall for the next time to come. And keep going with your bounty hunters, but if you want it to be a little more durable on defense, you're going to need to put a tank in there just to give him a little more durability. I think Stormtrooper Han would give him more speed, provided that you made him faster, and it might be very interesting to see how Stormtrooper Han speeds that already fast team up. And Stormtrooper Han, of course, under Boba Fett does very well. So what are your thoughts? Make sure if you're watching this that you leave Nyyk some comments down below as to what he could do with his squad as you looked at it and your opinions, because every viewer out there has got great ideas and input. So put them down at the bottom. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.